Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm back here bringing you guys a brand new review, and this could be for Antman and the Wasp. So, if you see a background with Antman and the Wasp, either a poster or a picture of the cast and crew, this is probably what the movie review is going to be about. So, Antman and the Wasp is a sequel to the first Antman, which stars Paul Rudd, Evangeline Lilly, as well as Michelle Pfeiffer in this new film. There's even Lawrence Fishburne, which is interesting because I thought there was a contract that said you couldn't work for two different companies if you're already working for, DC. But apparently Lawrence Fishburne can kind of get away with it because he's pretty much Morpheus from the Matrix. And I really did like this movie a lot more than I thought I did. I was pretty much in the same thoughts with the first Ant-Man movie. Like with the first Ant-Man movie, I was kind of skeptical just because I'm like, it's Ant-Man. Who's gonna really want to watch a movie about shrinking people? Kind of feels like Honey I Shrunk the Kids in a way, but this movie is far from that, and is actually a pretty decent movie, and it was one of my favorite comic book movies of that summer until Captain America Civil War came out, which is funny enough because this is a sequel to Captain America Civil War, while also being kind of a prequel to Avengers Infinity War, which I have yet to review, which I'll probably review at some point in time. Just because, I really liked Avengers Infinity War, and I probably should have reviewed it right after I'd seen it, but a lot of things came up and I just didn't feel like reviewing that movie. But this movie is really interesting. So this kind of goes deeper into Paul Rudd's kind of relationship with his daughter and everything. She kind of knows that, he used to be sort of a criminal and stuff, and he's kind of trying to deal with his house arrest because of the events of Civil War, in which he only has 3 days left until he's released. And so you see kind of the relationship with him and his daughter. You see a little bit more of the relationship with Evangeline Lilly, which is another interesting kind of duo because she's given a lot more in terms of her role in this movie as opposed to the last movie. She's actually physically in fights and stuff, and actually is trained and knows kind of what she's doing in sort of a given scenario. There's a couple really cool action sequences that involves her and one of the main characters, Ghost, which is another character that's kind of troubled and has a deeper, darker past, and why they're doing the things that they're doing in this film. I don't want to give away too much in this movie just because I know that a lot of people are going to go in kind of blind, and it's pretty much the way that I went in, which is blind. I didn't know anything about the past of any of these characters before I saw the first Ant-Man, and then you kind of grow to like these characters over time. So I kind of want that same experience as you don't really know what type of movie this is, but this movie is not a heist movie like the last movie was. And this movie is more or less pretty much a rescue operation. So Hank Pym kind of figures out that Evangeline Lilly, aka the Wasp, they're still alive and they're trying to go. They're built this machine that allows them to go into the quantum realm, which is something that they explored a lot of in the first movie, and they delve a little bit deeper into this film. I'm seeing as though that Scott Lang was able to kind of get out of the quantum first Ant-Man. They go down there in order to try and rescue her, which I won't reveal the spoilers of what happens or whether or not they actually do that. But they show a little bit more of the creatures and stuff that are in this quantum realm, which is pretty cool. They show a little bit more of the craziness that goes on in the quantum realm as well. And by the end of this movie, you kind of figure out why Ant-Man wasn't really in the Avengers Infinity War, because there's something that happens at the end that if you stay for the post-credits sequences, you're going to be able to figure that out for yourself. And I would suggest that you stay for the first one. I didn't stay for the second post-credit sequence because I know eventually when it comes out on Blu-ray, I'm probably going to buy that and then watch that movie a second time and probably get to see the second end credit scene. I just didn't think it was necessary because I just wanted to see what happened to Ant-Man. And it's pretty interesting what happens. So I'm not going to reveal that unless I do a spoiler review or something like that. But I'm sure there's other people that have talked about this online, so if you want to figure out what happens to that character at the end of this movie, it's a really interesting sequence, and my mind was kind of blown because it kind of ties into what happened into the Avengers Infinity War, which is a little bit darker of a scenario, and it's something that I think is a really interesting point of where they could go in the future for the Marvel MCU, which I've been kind of around since the Iron Man days, so I've been kind of following this since the beginning, so it's kind of one of those things that I really enjoy is seeing kind of how this plays out overall in the future, and that's all due to Kevin Feige and his ability to kind of bridge all these interconnecting stories into one sort of film. And I really do think that if you skip a couple of these movies, you're not really going to have that hard of a time figuring out what happens in Ant-Man and the Wasp. You don't really need to see the first Ant-Man to understand what's going on in this movie. The one character I did like was the one character that was kind of the FBI agent in this movie. He has some funny lines in this film. Evangeline Lilly, like I said, did an amazing job in her part, and she had a little bit more of a more badass role in this movie compared to some of the previous movies that she's been in. And I think that Paul Rudd's character with his daughter was kind of fleshed out a little bit more. So, I really did like this movie. I think that if you're going to go into this movie, you're probably going to like it since you've seen the first Ant-Man. And if you haven't seen the first Ant-Man, you're really not going to have that bit of a trouble kind of understanding what's going on with the overarching story. So I would give this movie about a B. I wouldn't say it's an A or a C. I would say that it's a fairly decent movie. Nothing to kind of write home about. It's not an amazing movie like Avengers Infinity War was, but it certainly wasn't bad. Or some of the as bad as some of the other movies that I've seen this year. So yeah, I would highly suggest that you take your family to go see this movie if you're thinking about going, on a rainy day, or whether or not you have nothing else better to do to go see Ant-Man. I think it's definitely a fun movie for the family to go see. So I hope you guys enjoyed my sort of take on Ant-Man and the Wasp. I know I was being a little bit vague, but I was being a little bit vague on purpose just because, I didn't want to spoil anything. I didn't want to ruin the movie for anybody that hasn't seen it yet. So hope you guys understand that reasoning, and hope you guys tune in for more videos. So rate, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace out.